Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
And talking about things being bad enough, could things get worse if somebody yells out, "Let's burn this mother effer down"? Well, that's what happened in Ferguson, Missouri. And the article reads, despite Ferguson Police Chief Tom Jackson's assertion that the police are investigating whether Lewis Head, the stepfather of Michael Brown, intended to incite a riot with his words, law enforcement sources told CNN that Head is unlikely to be prosecuted. Head said Wednesday that the emotions got the best of me on the night of November 24th in Ferguson, Missouri, when he yelled, "Burn this mother effer down and burn this bee down." Now, myself and Joe Biggs were in Ferguson, Missouri, just a few yards away from this incident, these words being spewed. And since then, of course, we do see the stepfather retracting these words, but this is, of course, after buildings were burned. Myself and Joe Biggs, we saw 3 personally. I mean, I don't mean saw on CNN. We were right there next to these buildings as they were being burned to the ground. So regardless of what his intentions were, actions were definitely taken. So we'll see what happens if they choose to prosecute him or not. But regardless, things are definitely hot enough out there in Ferguson, Missouri without anybody throwing fuel on the fire. And I do encourage people to go out and peacefully protest. You can have marches and banner hangs and candlelight vigils, but when you're looting and burning down businesses, that's going way, way too far. But it's not just the words of Mr. Head that have people concerned. Many people are concerned about the words from Al Sharpton, the words of Eric Holder when it comes to Ferguson, Missouri. And now we see Sheriff David Clark, the Milwaukee sheriff who's been a guest on our show. He says, Eric Holder has disgusted me.
And then I became disgusted. He comes out with these scurrilous claims, that law enforcement officers hit the streets every day with some nefarious intent in their heart to deny people their constitutional civil rights and indiscriminately just, shoot black males as if it were some sort of sport. I think that's irresponsible for a person in a position that he holds, as you indicated, the top cop. But apparently he's abandoned his duty, really, to be impartial in this stuff.
Sheriff Clark made the statements in context of discussing the fallout from the grand jury's decision not to indict Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson in the shooting death of Michael Brown. He is now a former officer. So, that's what's happening out there in Ferguson, Missouri. You have people coming in and stirring the pot. It's one thing to say, hey, this is what's going on, but it's nothing to say, hey, we need to have a, racial revolution, and we definitely need to stop things like police violence, whether it's this case or, other things as well. And many people will debate the facts of the Michael Brown shooting, whether or not Officer Darren Wilson was justified in his actions. I said this personally, publicly, that, I've read a lot of police reports. I used to work at a jail, and you have the suspect, if they're alive enough to testify, they say, hey, I did nothing wrong. You have the officer who said this guy did everything wrong. And the truth is usually somewhere in the middle. So, like most police shootings, I'm a bit skeptical. Maybe the first rounds were fired in self-defense, but after that, things get a little bit iffy for me. But something that's not open to debate, the death of one Eric Garner, who was killed by police for the heinous crime of tax evasion. Of course, this is the man who was selling cigarettes on the street. He's not murdering anybody, not raping anybody, not child trafficking, none of that stuff. Selling cigarettes on the street, the police come up, and yeah, he's a little apprehensive. He says, hey, he's a little agitated, officers, I don't want to be involved in this. Maybe he pulls back a little bit, but he doesn't get physically aggressive. He doesn't swing, doesn't kick, but the officer comes and places him in a chokehold. And the thing I want to point your attention to, the 43-year-old father of 6 begged for his life, telling officers that he couldn't breathe before dying moments later in what the medical examiner's office ruled to be a homicide caused by a chokehold. And speaking of chokeholds, USA Today has this article, no charges in NYC chokehold death, federal inquiry launched. The Justice Department said it's opening a federal inquiry into Gardner's death, a federal official confirmed Wednesday. And I don't have a whole lot of faith in the Justice Department, not to mention, because Operation Fast and Furious, things such as that. But, I'm very concerned that they're just going to go in there and stir up racial tensions, and we definitely don't need any more of that, just like we heard Sheriff David Clark say, hey, we don't need guys like Eric Holder coming into these communities and making things worse for the people who live there. But speaking of how these things just continue to happen and there's really no justice for anybody, now we see in Phoenix police suspect unarmed when killed by an officer. The man killed by a Phoenix police officer at a North Phoenix apartment complex Tuesday night was not armed, but the officer who shot him believed he felt a gun in the pocket of the 34-year-old suspected drug dealer, according to a Phoenix police spokesman. The object thought to have been a gun turned out to be a bottle of pills, police said. So there you go. They can fill you up, pat you down, and then say a bottle of pills. I don't have a bottle of pills. I do have a bottle of Secret 12, not a plug. It just happened to be sitting here. And if I'm patting somebody down, I feel something like this, maybe a little larger, maybe a little smaller. That doesn't really feel like a gun to me, but I guess according to that officer, that's what it was. So it just goes to show, are there good officers out there? Yes. Are there decent people who just want to serve their communities, make the streets safer, have a good place for their kids to play? Of course, those people do exist. But we see so many of these officers involved in these shootings, whether it's in Albuquerque, in New York, whether they're choking people, beating people to death like Kelly Thomas. These things continue to happen on and on and on. And just like people say, they want the good officers to arrest the bad officers, but so often that is not the case. So stay tuned after this break. We'll have more special reports. I have a special report from Joe Biggs. He's going to be outlining the new security features or lack thereof on Facebook. And also we'll talk about the constitutional crisis plaguing our community. Stay tuned. This is the Infowars Nightly News.
For all of recorded history, civilizations around the world praised the health benefits of silver. At Infowars Life, our mission is to bring you the highest quality, purest, cleanest, effective colloidal silver on the market today for the lowest price available. You don't have to be a doctor to know. The fall and winter months are the most dangerous time of year in North America when it comes to you and your family's health. InfoWarsLife.com is very excited to announce our biggest run yet of Silver Bullet colloidal silver, exclusively available at InfoWarsLife.com. Now, InfoWarsLife.com has taken colloidal silver to the next level using a cutting-edge technique that is free of toxic artificial additives. Now more than ever, it's important to stock up on high-quality Silver Bullet from InfoWarsLife.com and to help others during Christmas by teaching them about the powerful benefits of silver. Secure your Silver Bullet today at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.